Hey guys, Mist here, and I'm back with another role guide. Honestly, let me ask you something. Have you ever played farm lane, got a bunch of kills, had good farm, and somehow still lost the game? Don't know about you, but I have faced that type of situation many times. And honestly, I think a lot of farm laners focus way too much on asking, how do they kill their target? When the better question they need to ask is, what should they be doing right now? What is their main objectives? Because different situations gives different outcomes. Sometimes the correct play is to fight, sometimes it's to push, sometimes it's to freeze, sometimes it's literally just backing away and farming under your tower, and sometimes you have to ignore a fight completely. That's what I want to talk about in this video. Not just the basic stuff like farm more or don't die. Everyone already knows that. I want to show you how to make decisions as a farm laner. We are talking about wave control, safe farming, trading, tower pressure, rotations, objectives, item spikes, and the biggest mistakes that keep farm laners stuck in ranked. Because once you understand that, farm lane becomes a lot easier. Let's start with something really simple. I bet when you see the enemy marksman at 40% HP, your first thought is probably, I can kill him. And maybe you somehow manage to kill him. But before you blindly jump in, ask yourself 3 simple things. Where is the enemy jungler? Where is their roamer? And where and when will my next wave is? Because if you chase that low health marksman into the river, and their jungler is sitting in a bush, you didn't find a kill, you found a problem. This is something I think a lot of players misunderstand about farm lane. You actually don't need to win every fight. If the enemy has to recall and you get the next 2 waves for free, that's already a win for you. If they are forced away from the wave, that's also a win. If you manage to damage their tower while they are recalling, that's also a win for you. The kill is just one possible reward you get. The bigger goal is creating a golden map advantage, and this is where farm lane starts becoming more interesting. You need to keep in mind that the most important rule of farm lane is, farm comes first. Here's the easiest way I think about waves and manage it. Think like this. Every time a wave is coming, you have to make a decision. The decisions can be various types, like, do you want a wave to stay here? Do you want to push it? Or do you want to clear it quickly and leave? That's it. And your answer should depend on what's happening around the map. For example, if the enemy is stronger than you in early game, why would you constantly shove the wave toward them? There's no need for that. You're basically walking closer to the enemy and making yourself easier to gank. Instead, sometimes it's better to keep the wave closer to your side and freeze the wave. Now the enemy has to walk forward if they want their gold. And if their jungler isn't around, you can punish them or make a way for your jungler to gank the enemy marksman. But here's the part that people usually miss. You don't freeze just because someone told you freezing is good. You freeze minion waves because you have a reason. For example, maybe you're weaker. Maybe their jungler is missing from the MiniMap. Or you don't have a vision. Maybe you want the enemy to walk into your roamer's range. Or maybe you just want to deny the enemy farm as much as possible. There can be so many reasons for freezing a wave. Wow. But there is another side to wave control. Sometimes you want to push. Like freezing, the same thing applies to pushing. Don't push just because you can. Push because you want something after the wave hits the tower. Because after pushing, you have a few seconds of freedom. This is called tempo. You can use that time to recall if needed, take a nearby resource, help your team, or prepare for the next objective. That's what I mean by purposeful wave management. You're not controlling minions just to control minions. You're creating a window to do something else. Let me give you a scenario. You see with Luban, it's kinda easier to push or clean waves, but in early I was slightly struggling. But what I did is I patiently waited for my chance. Even when the enemy overextend, I didn't. I patiently cleared the waves, waited for the enemy to make mistakes, waited for my roam or mage or jungler to rotate in my lane, and that's when I hit it hard and managed to stay at top in gold management the whole match. Now let's talk about trading. This is where a lot of farm laners throw away their advantage. They see the enemy marksman, they press everything, they take half their health, and then they realize they have no cooldowns left. Now the enemy can also fight back. Instead, think about making small trades. Hit the enemy when they overextend for a minion. Use your range advantage. Punish them when their abilities are on cooldown. Then step back. You do not always need to kill them. If you force the enemy to recall while you stay in lane and collect the next wave, you have already won the trade. That is a gold advantage, and gold advantages are what farm lane is all about. Now let's talk about something even more important, your support. Your roamer leaving doesn't mean you have to leave too. This one is important. Your roamer leaves farm lane. You see them running toward mid, and suddenly you keep thinking, well, I guess I should follow. No, you don't need to do that. Remember, you're a farm laner. Your roamer can leave because their job is to influence and control the map. Your primary job is still to get gold. So, if your roamer leaves and the enemy marksman is still in lane, you need to ask yourself, can I safely farm this wave alone? If the answer is yes, then stay. Take the waves, farm gold. But if the answer is no, then back off. And this is where I think a lot of players get greedy and make mistakes. They make excuse. But bro, I need this wave. No, you need the gold from the wave. You don't need to physically stand beside the wave while 3 or 4 enemies are missing from the map. If the map looks dangerous, give up a few minions. I know it's annoying, but dying for 1 wave is much worse. You lose the wave, you lose time, you give the enemy gold, and now you're probably going to miss another wave while you're dead. So sometimes the best farm lane play is actually doing less. As we were talking about missing enemies, this is where MiniMap comes in. Start tracking people, not just minions. This is where I want you to improve your MiniMap habits. Don't just look at the MiniMap and think, okay, everyone is missing. Instead, try to remember where they were last seen and adjust your position according to it. For example, let's say their jungler was just shown on Clash Lane. That's perfect. Now you have a little more freedom in farm lane. You can push, maybe you can take down the towers or take a nearby resource to farm more gold. But if their jungler disappears from the map, you should change your behavior. You don't need to panic. Step back a little. Wait for more map information. And once you see them somewhere else, now you can push again. This is something that makes a huge difference between players who simply follow rules and players who actually understand macro. You're constantly updating your decision based on information you get from MiniMap and your teammates. The map changes, so your decision should change too. Another important topic would be tower pressure. Once you have an advantage in farm lane, do not just sit there farming forever. Convert your advantage into something permanent, like you can push the wave, damage the tower, take creeps or anything that gives you gold. Force the enemy to defend, because a gold lead is temporary. A destroyed tower is permanent map pressure. Once the enemy tower gets destroyed, the entire map opens up for you. You can move freely, help your jungler or mid laner, rotate toward objectives, and you can also start taking safer farm from the enemy side of the map when your team has control. But do not blindly invade. Your next wave is still important. Always know where your next source of gold is coming from. Now, if we talk about objectives, this is where farm lane macro becomes extremely important. When you see an important objective is about to become contested, like Tyrant Dragon in 4 minutes mark or Overload in late game, you should not wait until the fight has already started. Instead, prepare before the fight. Push your lane, clear the wave. Recall if necessary, then move toward the objective with your team. This is much better than standing in lane while your team is already fighting, because if you arrive late, you may miss the entire fight, and if you rotate too early without pushing your wave, you might lose valuable gold for no reason. I always see farm laners not joining objective contests. Even in higher ranks, we get these type of players. Remember, during a big team fights or objective contests, your team needs you more than anything, because you are the main highest damage dealer for the team. Now, let me shortly cover item power spikes. Farm laners are heavily dependent on items. That means every time you complete an important core item, your playstyle can change. If you have a major item advantage over the enemy marksman, you can usually play more aggressively. But if you are behind in gold, do not try to force a fight just because you want to prove something, or you are feeling like a main character. Farm first, clear waves. Take safe resources. Wait for your next core item. A weak marksman who keeps fighting will stay weak. A weak marksman who farms safely can become a late-game monster, and that is one of the biggest strengths of farm lane. Let me give you short understanding about marksman rotations. So, After taking the farm lane tower, do not automatically stay in the same lane. Look at the map. Think about, where is your next safe source of gold? Where is your team fighting, or if your team needs you? Which lane needs more pressure? And which objective is coming next? Your job is to keep farming while staying close enough to contribute to important fights, but never rotate randomly. If you leave farm lane just to walk around the map, you are probably losing farm, and you also have a high chances of getting ganked by enemy. You need a proper reason to move. So do it like this. Push a wave, then rotate, take an objective, return for the next wave. That is the cycle you mostly need to follow, at least until your farm lane's second tower falls. Now let's talk about team fighting. This is where your entire game can be decided in a few seconds. Your team fight job is actually very simple. And honestly, I think farm laners overcomplicate this. You don't have to kill their marksman. You don't have to dive their mage. You also don't have to make some insane highlight play. Your first job in a team fight is stay alive no matter what, because just by staying alive you can shift a fight. Your second job is keep dealing damage, stay behind your team, especially your tank, and keep on attacking. Don't stop when a full-scale battle happens. That's it. If their tank is the closest target, hit the tank. If their assassin dives you, deal with the threat and reposition. If their backline walks into your range, then destroy them. But don't walk through the entire enemy team just because you saw their marksman with 30% HP. Because here's the funny part. You might somehow get that kill and die immediately afterward. Now you're watching your team fight from the death screen. Not exactly the carry moment you have imagined. Your positioning matters more than getting the perfect target. And remember, you can't deal damage or get a kill while you're dead. Now here comes another problem. As a farm laner, don't use "I'm farming" as an excuse. Now, there's another side to this. Some farm laners take the whole "I need farm" thing way too seriously. Their team is fighting around an important objective. Their wave is already pushed, next wave isn't even close, and they're still sitting in farm lane hitting minions. Bro, what are you farming at that point? This is where you need to recognize your power spike. If your wave is handled, and your team is about to contest something important, for example, Tyrant or Overlord, then kindly move your lazy ass. You don't need to stay in lane just because your role is called farm lane. The name doesn't mean never leave this lane. Your job is to keep your gold coming in while still contributing when it matters. That's the balance. The farm lane checklist, I actually want you to remember. So instead of giving you 20 rules to memorize, here's what I want you to think about every time you're playing farm lane. First, before you push, always ask these questions in your mind. Where is their jungler? Where is their roamer? Where is the enemy mid? And if you actually have a reason to push, now before you fight, I need you to ask these questions. What do you gain if you win the fight? What do you lose if you lose the fight? Is your roamer nearby? Most importantly, is all your skills available or not? Now the things you need to check before rotating. Is your wave handled? Where do you want go? Is the fight actually worth joining? When you're ahead in farming, how can you turn this lead into a tower, objective, or more gold? And when you're behind in farming, how can you survive long enough to catch up? And lastly, during every team fight, can you deal damage without putting yourself in danger? That's the mindset I want you to build. Farm lane isn't difficult because the role has complicated mechanics. It's difficult because you constantly have to make many different decisions for different situations. And honestly, there's not always one correct answer. That's the whole point. The best farm laners aren't following a script every second of the game. They're looking at the map, checking their gold, checking their items, checking the enemy positions, and then making the best decision they can. So the next time you play farm lane, stop asking, how do I kill the enemy? Instead ask, how do I become richer than everyone else? Because when you have more gold, better items, better positioning, and better timing, you do not need to force the game. The game starts working in your favor. If this guide helped you improve your farm lane gameplay, hit the like button and subscribe for more Honor of Kings guides, tips, and strategies. And comment below. What is your main farm lane hero? I'll see you in the next one.